Question number 12, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Why has early childhood education funding on a per-place basis failed to keep up with inflation in Budget 2015 when early childhood education costs for parents have increased by 7.5 times the rate of inflation in the past year?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Nikki Kaye.
On behalf of the Minister of Education, I do not agree with the member's assertion that the budget cost adjustments for early childhood education are not keeping up with early childhood education costs being funded by parents. Furthermore, the government does not automatically provide an annual cost adjustment to ECE funding rates. The government provides a substantial subsidy towards the cost of ECE provision. Funding for ECE, even in a constrained fiscal environment, has nearly doubled since 2008. The total stands at now over $1.6 billion. The most recent survey of costs that providers pay show that $1 that families pay for ECE, this government provides $4.80 compared to 2011, which showed that for every $1 a parent was spending on ECE, the government was spending $3.45. What's more, ECE is 32% more affordable than it was in 2007, and the level of affordability has been maintained over the last 10 years.
The answer is miles too long.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Why did the national government cut funding to centres that only employ fully qualified teachers, leading to yesterday's announcement by kindergartens in Wellington that after years of underfunding, they are asking teachers to either work part-time or face redundancy?
The Honourable Nikki Kaye.
Mr Speaker, I make 2 points. Firstly, what I say is while we've made changes and we've put needs-based funding in other places, there has been increases in terms of the salaries around kindergarten teachers this year. I think there's been a 0.56% adjustment, so there has been increases this year.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, with all respect, that didn't address my question, which was why did the government cut funding for centres that only employ qualified staff?
Other places was the answer that was
given. Further supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
I'd be grateful. Further supplementary question.
Did the national government cut funding for centres that only employ fully qualified teachers? If so, why?
The Honourable Nikki Kaye.
Mr Speaker, as I said before, we did make changes in terms of funding, and we did reduce funding in some areas because we have chosen, for instance, in this budget to spend $100 million. That additional money is going to some of our most disadvantaged kids, and we believe firmly in those 41,000 children who actually need that funding.
Question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Is she concerned that a recent survey of early childhood teachers found a quarter of them would not be happy to have their own child enrolled where they are working, with many saying the conditions are like, quote, factory farming children? If not, what will it take for her to be concerned?
The Honourable
Speaker,
Nikki Kaye.
Again, if it's a survey that I believe that member is referring to, it was a survey sample size of about 600 people out of 25,000 teachers. My understanding was the answers that they gave, this is a very important point, in the quarter figure that he quotes, some of those people said the reason they didn't want their children to be in those centres is because they wanted to look after them at home, which is actually their choice.
Big question, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Has she seen the comment from Amanda Coulston from the Wellington Kindergarten Association that they are being forced to cut teachers and, quote, we wouldn't put 80% professional rugby players out in the World Cup and have the other 20% as big fans and think that we're going to get the same result as if we had 100% professional players? If so, why won't she properly fund the early childhood sector so they can have fully qualified teachers?
Good question.
The Honourable Nikki Kaye.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Education, I haven't seen the exact quote, but I have seen various media reports, and I make these points. The first thing is we have doubled early childhood funding to $1.6 billion. The second point that I'd make is in terms of kindergarten funding, as I said, there has been an increase this year. And the third point that I would make is that this government believes firmly that not only is it about funding, it's actually about quality and participation and meeting some of our most disadvantaged students, and that's what we're doing.
Good on you. Yeah, good answers.
And that concludes questions for oral answer. I call on point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, at the beginning of question time,